Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited. John Haynes, the man with nothing to lose. The man who rules the world runs into the irresistible force of a man with nothing to lose in this action-packed, all-new John Haynes series adventure. Get the regular and variant editions of John Haynes, the man with nothing to lose on Amazon.com today. Better get the coleslaw, y'all, cause we're having us a barbecue. In a previous video, I talked about why black men are the doormats of the dating scene. And in that video, I talked about how many black men really don't understand their role as men in God's order, don't understand their role as a leader, a head, or a steward, and really don't understand how to go out here and be a man because their fathers were not in their lives in some cases, and others basically saw men in their community being extremely passive, like beta male fathers and fathers in and out of their lives, and other men in the community, and none of these men ever actually taking a lead. And because those men never took a lead in the community, they never established any sort of standard as related to how they would be treated. And because they didn't impose any sort of standard, they allowed black women and other women to believe that they could do whatever they pleased without any sort of accountability for their behavior, any sort of reprisal for their behavior, or any sort of punishment whatsoever. And because of this is why many black men are at the bottom of the dating scene, because as a collective, they are not respected by women in their own community, which are black women, and they're further not respected by women outside of their community. And this is because the black man in and of himself really does not have the power to impose any sort of consequences on a black woman or any sort of woman in any community due to the system of white supremacy. Now, in the system of white supremacy, the black man is stripped of his power as a man and is not allowed to be that head and steward over his community the way men in other communities are as a collective. Because in other communities where the men are a collective, they basically come together as men and impose written and unwritten social rules for the conduct of the women in the community. And as they impose these written and unwritten social rules, they basically can go out here and impose penalties for the out-of-pocket behavior of women, and they can also impose punishments for the behavior of women who decide to go outside of the unwritten and written social rules of that group of men as a collective. Now, as when it comes to the black man really doesn't understand anything about these written or unwritten social rules these days, because many black boys grew up in an environment of white feminism, and as their mothers basically drank the white feminist Kool-Aid, they basically were in a position in society where they basically could run amok without any sort of man imposing any sort of penalty on them at all, and with them being in an environment where they could go out here and do whatever they please without any man ever holding them accountable, any man holding them responsible for their behavior, and any man making them suffer any sort of consequences. These women basically run wild in black communities, and what's even worse is that they're further enabled by the U.S. government institutions such as the welfare state and even the police departments all across the country. Because whenever a black man and a group of black men want to hold black women accountable for their out-of-pocket and out-of-control behavior, what happens is in that community, the black women, basically what they do is go to the white man or the white police department, and they go out here and get charges put on any black man who decides to go out here and put any sort of consequences for their behavior, whether it be trying to verbally hold them accountable or trying to, in some cases, get physical with these women. What happens with black men is that those black men, as a collective, they have been neutered to the point where they can't impose any sort of punishment on this group of black women. And because they can't impose any sort of punishment whatsoever on black women for their, again, what is considered to be ratchet, out of pocket, disrespectful, and just out of control behavior, what happens is that those black men are not seen as any sort of leader in the community. They are not seen as anyone who can impose standards in the community. And they're not seen as anybody who's regarded as an authority figure the way white men and non-black men are seen in their communities. Now, when it comes to white and non-black men in their communities, those men as a collective can go out here and impose penalties on women who, again, don't meet their standards, and they can impose further penalties on those women as related to consequences and enforcing punishments and other sorts of penalties on those women if they decide to go out here and speak against the collective or do things against the collective of men in the community. Now, in these communities, again, there are written and unwritten social rules for the conduct of the women, and those women know that if they go against those rules, what's going to happen is they're going to suffer some sort of penalty that could lead to them possibly being ignored by the collective, or in the extreme case, be ostracized from the collective and not allowed to interact with that collective of men. Those men in those communities, again, enforce these rules with an iron fist in some cases, like in the case of the Muslim community. Now, when it comes to the Muslim man, he basically, again, rules over the women in his community. The collective of men have a strict set of rules for the women to follow and these rules are enforced. And again, nobody questions the authority of these men as related to their order. No, when those men basically say a certain behavior is not allowed, the women understand that it is not allowed, and those who want to participate in behaviors that are not allowed in the community, basically, these women basically either have to leave the community voluntarily or they are forced out of the community if they are not having to suffer the severe penalties from that community, as such as, again, honor killings and other things that I do not condone. I do not condone that behavior, but this is how they run their community. And the same thing happens with other communities of non-black men. Those communities, such as the Asian community, again, the families enforce strict unwritten and written social rules for the women to participate in, and those rules are enforced, again, strictly in that community as well. And even in the white community, even with white feminism, white supremacists have strict social rules, and those strict social rules, again, are enforced. And if someone steps out of line, again, in the white community, again, these rules are enforced on white women to let them know who is in charge. However, in the black community, because the black man basically has had his power taken away due to the feminist movement and black women embracing the feminist movement and the enabling by white men, what has happened is the black man is not seen as a leader. He's not seen as an authority figure. He is not seen as anybody anyone regards. And this is why you can have black women sitting there and talk about looking to pursue relationships with men of other races and talk about things like swirling out in the open and talk about this basically in the face of the black man, openly disrespecting him, or talk about even leaving the black community and talk about them as a collective divesting from the black community. I mean, these type of discussions are not had in the Islamic community. They are not had in the Asian community. They are not had in the Hispanic community. No, these women understand to speak like this is open disrespect to the men of that community, and they will not openly speak these narratives because they don't want to lose the protection and leadership of the men in their communities, because they respect the leadership and protection of those men in those communities. And those women, as a collective, understand that they have to honor and respect the men in their communities. Unfortunately, in the case of the modern black woman, she has never been taught to respect the leadership and authority of the black man, or see him in his role as God's head or steward. And because she doesn't see him as a leader, this is why the black woman basically is so disrespectful to the black man, and can do things like, again, put her finger in this man's face, speak all sorts of disrespect to him, say all sorts of disrespectful things straight to his face, and even physically assault him. And this neutered black man basically can't do anything about anything at all. No, this black man basically just has to sit there and take it, because as part of what has happened under the system of white supremacy, this black man, again, cannot, again, enforce his power as a man over a woman or over the collective of women. Now, when it comes to the black man, if he were to try to enforce any sort of policy as related to a consequence or a punishment on the collective of black women, or even a single black woman, that black woman can go to her enabler, who is the white man, or his enforcers, and have that black man punished by that white man and the collective of white men for looking to take his authority as a black man and take his lead. And this is how the black man winds up becoming completely emasculated in the social marketplace, and placed in the role of a boy, because he cannot take his power as a man that God gave him as a man in the singular, and as a man and a collective. And this is why the black man is one of the reasons he's the doormat of the dating scene, because he cannot go out here and assert his authority as a man. He cannot go out here and assert his authority over the black woman or any woman in the community. No, he cannot go out here and impose his standard as a black man for the rules and conduct of the black woman. He cannot go out here and establish any sort of consequences for behavior that is disrespectful or out of pocket. He cannot actively go and shut down narratives inside of his community that are detrimental to it, such as the narrative of swirling and divesting. No, in any other community, again, if women spoke like this, those women would have to deal with the penalty of the women in the community as a collective cutting those women off as a group, and they would also have to deal with the men in that community cutting them off as a group. And those women would basically be left to fend for themselves and be left on their own, because those women would again have violated the rules established by the men in that community as related to the conduct of the women due to the standards they established. But sadly, when it comes to the black man, he's sitting there thinking that he's a prince in the dating scene, when he's actually the laughingstock of civilization. He's the laughingstock because he cannot take the lead over his woman, and he cannot take the lead in his community. No, he can't take the lead because in some cases, one, he's afraid to take that power. Two, he's afraid of white reprisal as related to things like lynchings and other types of assaults like the burning of towns like Rosewood and Black Wall Street. And this fear keeps the black man from being able to take the power that God has given him. God gave this black man power to take the lead over his community, but sadly, over 60 years, many black men have been brainwashed by white feminism to believe that they don't have any sort of power. And this is why, again, the black man is the doormat of the dating scene, because he doesn't take any of his power. No, he believes that he has to wait for the black woman to give him permission in order to do anything. And instead of him taking his power the way other men of other races have done, what happens with the black man is he doesn't take his power by understanding his role as God's head and God's steward. And this is the power given to him by God to be the head and the steward. And again, as that head and steward, he is responsible to God. But sadly, the black man would rather be responsible to the black woman and would rather defer to her authority instead of taking the authority that God has given him. And this is where the black man is the weakest man in the dating scene. Again, the weakest man because he won't take his power. He's afraid to take his power due to the way he was raised by his single mother. His single mother teaches him women are the ones with the power, but never understands he is the one with power and the one given power by God to, again, be the head of his community, be the leader of his community, to be the one who imposes standards on the women for how they behave and interact with him, and be the one who can impose those standards. And if those women behave in out-of-pocket fashion, be the one to impose consequences on those women in the form of penalty and punishment on those women to let them know as a collective this behavior will not be tolerated, and let those women know that if they want to be in the presence of those men as a collective are not going to be dealing with narratives that are considered traitorous, such as the narrative of swirling, such as the narrative of divesting. Again, that's what men as a collective in other communities do. If a woman were to even speak these type of narratives, again, those men would have cut that woman out of their community and tell her to go fend for herself with those other groups. And if something happens to her, whatever happens to her, again, those are the rules in those communities. But in the black community, the black man, again, is not respected as a leader. And this is why you can have men from other communities walk into the black community, do whatever they please. I mean, you can have white guys and foreign guys walk into the community and have any relationship with any black woman that they want, come into the community, open businesses in his community, and nobody's going to say a single word. But if we, black men, were to go into anybody else's community, again, there would be men at the gate waiting for that black man, like in the case of men of a certain religion. Again, if you come into their community, they have patrols around their community, private patrols that let you know, hey, you're not coming into our neighborhood. You're not going to be talking to our women. You're not going to be doing whatever you please. That's in that community of a certain religion. And in other communities, those men will be letting you know, hey, what are you looking for? Who are you looking for? Asking you questions. Again, this is their way of protecting their community. They're not just going to let you run around and do whatever you please the way they do in the black community. No, when it comes to their communities, those men establish a standard as a collective for behavior in their communities, and they establish a standard for the behavior of their women in their communities. But in the black community, there are no men to establish this standard anymore. No, white feminism basically has programmed the black woman's mind to believe white acceptance is better than having a black standard. And because of this, there is no standard in the black community, and the black man is basically seen as someone no one takes seriously. No, he's not seen as anyone anybody takes seriously, as any sort of leader, any sort of head, and any sort of authority figure. No, he's basically seen as a doormat everybody can step on and wipe their feet on, step on and wipe their feet on, and come into that community and go out here and date all of the women, come in that community and basically, again, open up businesses without the permission of the elders of that community, can do whatever they please because they know there's no men in that community as a collective to be the ones running that community. No, those men have been neutered. Those men have been completely emasculated and put into the position of a boy, put into the position of a boy, but they think that they are men because, oh, I can go out here and get all sorts of women. Again, that's not what being a man is. Again, men take the role of leader and head very seriously, and they can go out here and again go out here as a collective, impose standards and rule in their community. And as they impose standards and rule in their community, people respect their authority, and they respect their authority to say, hey, if those men are telling us, you can't do certain things, we're not going to do them. And if you get out of pocket, again, there will be some sort of penalty or reprisal to let that person know, no, if you want to get out of pocket, you're not going to do that here. Again, that's what men as a collective can do, but black men can't do this at all. No, many black men don't see how they are neutered, don't see how they're emasculated, don't see how weak they actually are. No, they can't see it because mama won't tell them about their power because she wants to maintain her power. She and the women of the matriarchal order want to maintain their power that was given to them by the white man. And as they want to maintain that power, they keep this black man in the dark about his power. Yeah, they'll tell him he's, again, good at sex, and he'll think because sex is everything, he will think that he's accomplished something, but this woman has taken his power away, taking him away from God. And this is very ironic because these are the same women who 80% are Christians and will go to church. They will go to church, and that pastor won't tell that black man, hey, you're the head of your house, you're the leader, and you're accountable to God. No, won't tell that black man any of that. Won't tell that black woman she needs to be the helpmeet and support that black man. Won't tell him none of that, and that's in God's word. No, won't say a single thing about that because he also wants to get money from the white supremacists, and he wants to get the 3% that's left as his reward for, again, betraying the black community. That's what these guys do, and again, keep the black man in the dark. And as he's in the dating scene in the dark, he's thinking, oh, I got me a big penis. I can go out here and smash all these chicks and I've accomplished something. No, you've accomplished absolutely nothing because you don't understand your power as a man and you don't impose your power. You're afraid to impose your power. You're afraid to take your power because power is not something given. Power is something taken. And the sad part is that when the black man had his power, again, first taken away by the white slave master in slavery, and then further taken away by the white feminist, who basically, again, took the black woman, programmed her, and turned her against the black man, and had him out here. And again, he's sitting there in the dating scene. A lot of these guys who are, again, dumb and miseducated, like the late David Carroll said, I understand now why he said black men are dumb. Because a lot of these guys, they sit there thinking oh, I can get the attention of these women, but you don't have their respect. And they know they can basically walk all over you. They know they can basically walk all over you, and there will be no sort of penalty from you whatsoever. I mean, these chicks go out here and cut up a man's clothes, go out here and bleach his stuff, and these guys, they can't do a thing about it. Again, and some of them are afraid to do anything, but they're going to think, oh, I'm a man. No, if you did that in any other community, saw yourself cutting up a man's clothes, bleaching his clothes over allegations of some sort of cheating, or you slapped that man in the face, again, those men would let those women know, hey, we're going to deal with you. We're going to let you know what's coming to you. And in some cases, those men will basically, again, turn the other way if something's happening with this chick, or basically ostracize this chick. That's what would happen with those women who get out of pocket in other communities. But in the black community, black women can do whatever they please. And again, this is something that even some people said happened during slavery. Again, do whatever they please, except to that white man, because they know if they went against that white man, there is reprisal and there's consequences. But with that black man, you could basically, again, do whatever you want, because in the white supremacist society, the black man is not seen as a man anybody needs to regard. And again, this is why the black man is the doormat of the dating scene, because he, again, doesn't get that education on manhood, on his role as God's head and God's steward at an early age, and he doesn't understand the written and unwritten social rules of the collective of men, because those men, again, don't come together as a collective. In many cases, what happens with these men is that they run around being individuals, and the sad part is when you're a group of individuals, you just get picked off by the people like the white supremacist and the black woman, who basically, again, keep you from other men. Another thing that they like to do is keep you from other men, to keep you from forming that collective. Because when you become a collective of men, guess what? Again, you start to impose standards for your behavior, standards for how all the men are supposed to behave, and standards for certain situations, standards for certain behaviors, and standards for your entire community. And again, those men maintain that code. It's an unwritten code in some cases. And again, this is how men and communities maintain their power. Okay, we see somebody out of pocket. We're going to deal with you by talking to you first. And then if you don't want to listen, this is where we impose the penalty to leave you by yourself. And when we leave you by yourself, this is where you have to deal with the enemies outside of the community and the consequences that come with that whole situation. That's what, again, collectives of men go out here and do. Collectives of men basically, again, impose their authority and, again, use their authority to maintain their power. And this is how they protect their communities. But in the case of the black community, black males are basically, again, free agents who run around doing whatever they please and walk and participate in all sorts of off-code behavior and undermine each other. They undermine each other, and basically this is what leads to the reinforcement of the chaos of the black woman. She can go out here and again sow seeds of chaos, because these men don't have a code. They're not as a collective having an understanding of the written and unwritten rules of manhood. They don't understand how to operate as men. They don't know how to operate as a collective of men. I mean, let's look at guys like Travis Hunter, NFL player. I mean, this woman openly disrespects this black man and openly disrespects him because he never got any sort of teaching about the code of being a man. And he's sitting up there at a party in a car while his woman is out here partying. Again, open disrespect, sleeping in a separate room without his consent. Again, disrespecting this man. And again, this male basically married this woman because he didn't have any understanding of his role as a leader, didn't have any understanding of his role as a head. And again, this is what happens to black men. And again, this is another example of how a black man becomes a doormat and as related to life. I mean, let's look at Travis Hunter. Again, this guy is a doormat, and again, his woman wipes his feet, and again, even I would say wipes her ass on him because she doesn't respect him whatsoever. She doesn't respect his God-given authority as her head, doesn't respect him as her steward, and doesn't look to him as, again, the one that she's supposed to follow. No, doesn't look at him at all. And again, black men in and of themselves, we don't understand the power we give away. No, we don't understand it whatsoever because we've been kept in the dark for so long. And again, a lot of us, we don't understand this even in our personal lives. And we allow all sorts of disrespect because we don't even understand that we need to have a standard for ourselves when we're out here with people. We need to have a standard when we're out here, again, for how we are treated. And we need to insist on respect. This is something black boys don't understand at an early age, and it goes on when they enter into adulthood. They don't understand about respect. And again, these men, when they enter the social marketplace, become complete doormats, and again, used by women and made, taken advantage of, because nobody gave these males an education on what it means to be a man as related to God, and they don't get a understanding of the power that God has given them in dominion as men. They don't get that education, and that hobbles these men, hobbles and neuters these males, and again, keeps them from actualizing their potential as men in society. Now, if you want to learn more about why black men get hobbled as related to life, you can pick up my book, Why 70% of Black Women Are Single, on Amazon.com, and this will explain why so many black women are single and why so many black men have a hard time being able to have a relationship with black women. And you can pick up other books that I've written, such as The Man and the Woman Crisis, which goes more in depth on things. And with these books, you'll get a better understanding of why the black man is a doormat in the dating scene. Now, if you want to see me make more videos talking about men's issues, you can drop a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and e-readers, John Haynes' Illuminati, the man who rules the world, takes on the head of the global elite in this all-new action-packed John Haynes series adventure. Get your copy of John Haynes' Illuminati in paperback and e-readers at Amazon.com and online booksellers everywhere. Now available in paperback. From the author of the critically acclaimed book, The Man Crisis, comes The Woman Crisis. Learn why so many women have become lost in their quest to have it all in The Woman Crisis. Get your copy of The Woman Crisis in paperback at Amazon.com and online booksellers today. Now available for the first time in paperback, Why 70% of Black Women Are Single. Learn all the reasons why so many black women can't find a husband and why 70% of black women are single. Get your copy of Why 70% of Black Women Are Single on Amazon.com today. Support black-owned and black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.